Hi everyone, Frankie B here. Okay, we're finally going to get into some tool usage after a little, I guess, semi-rant and rave there as our intro as to the change in the video blog format here. So let's get on with the show of actually demonstrating some power tool usages. Now, one of the questions that has been brought up with some regularity is what will be the preferred way of actually building in things like environments and and maps and so forth for Unreal 4 engine. And a option that was brought up was, of course, is using a 3D application like 3ds Max, as in this example, or a Blender or Maya and so forth. Is it the preferred way of doing things, or is it is it best practice type of idea? And well, not really. I mean, you could, if you wish, you build your environments, putting in the base facades and structures using brushes if you wish. But I do prefer 3ds Max, and I'll explain my reasons why I prefer 3D Max over brush usage. Is that it gives me a much higher level of control over the types of designs that I edit into the environment, as well as some access to the some really handy features of being able to reference various different components, particularly if you're the chief cook and bottle washer, so to speak, where you're taking care of everything as part of the overall environment design of your specific project. Now, one of the things I like about working with 3ds Max, well, first of all, I've been using it for ever since like something like version 3, even before they even had things like bone controls and stuff like that. The IK solution at that time was Character Studio, so if you were doing player models for a video game, you had to use Character Studio. So that's how it kind of gained popularity as the preferred tool for game design. It simply just had the tools built into it necessary to make a video game without having to source out the third-party types of applications. Second thing I like about it is, of course, is the intuitive editing nature of a sub-object level edit, meaning that most say world builders are object oriented. They seem to want you to edit everything on the at the object level, with the ability to make changes at the sub-object level, where an application like 3ds Max, Blender, Maya, or whatever is your preferred weapon of choice, usually you begin at the object level and then you do your edits at the sub-object level. So you can see you got your selection tools here, which are made available. So it allows you to kind of select what you want and make your edits quickly at that level there. So that's really one of the reasons why I would prefer an editing application like 3ds Max. The other reason is that geometry is inert, meaning that it doesn't really add any type of parameters to the target engine. It's usually brought in as a raw asset without any fixed parameters assigned to it. Say, for example, a brush, which might already have a fair number of parameters as to its nature. It's a brush. Okay, so what do we need for a brush? Well, we need collision, we need UV mapping, and so forth. That's nice to have those things available for you, but I would prefer to add these elements as a parameter if it's required, rather than having it already attached, and then you're going to have to try to figure out ways of being able to remove it. So anyways, that kind of out of the way, one of the things that I found that it was much easier to do in an application like 3ds Max was to actually create the collision meshes. Now, I got two set up here already that I've been sort of working on. I still have some more little let's say, areas of collision that need to be worked on. You know, the ground is uneven, so since this is all going to be replaced by terrain anyways, that has collision detection already in it, as well as some of the flooring areas, which I'm using complex collision at the moment. Which basically allows you to run around in the environment, but at the cost of additional collision surfaces. So for each face that you have on a particular area is actually creating a collision. So if you have, say for example, a box with 10 segments in it, each segment is a collision area. So you know, that's kind of wasteful. But on the other hand, if we're only talking about 10 segments as compared to this being such a small and simple map, it really doesn't add much to anything. So once again, we have the option of making design decisions rather than having them made for you based on the type of materials that you're using to create those types of, say, in this case, collision meshes. Now, how I made this was, well, it was really based on some of the editing features that are already available as part of the blocking volume. The blocking volume is actually a simplified collision mesh, which you can then edit to encompass this type of idea, you know, where we have hard wall surfaces, and we can create by extension each segment and extrude those along the way. I personally, I don't like the transparency of it. I'm pretty sure I can change it, but once again, you know, you're going back to what you know, working with what you know. If you already have the skills in the 3D application, then you know, it makes a lot of sense to use Unreal 4 engine as the world builder. You know, the container that holds all your little bits and pieces. The other another bit of a tip, is objects placed within 3ds Max relative to origin 00 will be relative to that position within an Unreal 4. So meaning that if you build your entire scene and you segment it down to individual items, then as they are imported into Unreal 4, that's the location that they'll be relative to 00. So when you bring in and you drag and drop your item into this all you have to do is set its X, Y, Z transforms to 000, and it'll all start to snap in like Lego blocks. So you can literally build up your environment within any 3D application, bring them into Unreal in due course over time, while still working on its you know, all the other subcomponents. Like, you know, you might want to do some material work in 3ds Max to bring that over. So you can get this really nice pipeline going where everything becomes sort of cycles through. You know, you build in 3ds Max, you do your edit in 3ds Max, you export into Unreal 4, you re-import into Unreal 4, and everything starts to get this really nice nice flow going once you start getting your source control set up. So that's another thing of note at of the importance of proper flow source control. It really sort of speeds things up, particularly when you're talking about working with 25-30 other guys, where they can, as long as they maintain the origin, you can say, for example, hand off a building to somebody else to work on, and it'll snap right into place without you actually having any artwork. So that's the other bonus part, of course, of Unreal 4, is you don't have to have completed art to actually progress forward. Okay, so now let's actually do something a little bit more useful here, of actually showing and demonstrating some tool technique that can be used. And in this case, we're gonna do a simplified collision on the outer part of this wall here, and we'll see if we can do that in real time and not you know, spend an entire career working on it. Okay, first of all, let's go to our front view. Let's get rid of the grid because they're always ugly to look at. We're going to go over to create, and we're going to create a simple plane object within our scene here. and maybe make it about as high, give it the height of how high we want to create our tub. So that's basically what we're going to do. So we're going to tub in the environment to keep the player into it. So we don't need 4 height segments, we don't need 4 width segments, and we're going to convert this over to an editable poly to make it edit a little bit more easier. Now, that's a little bit too high. Well, not really. You know, you can go even higher than that. Basically, this is just a wall to keep the players confined to this volume of space, so to speak. So we're going to kind of set this up so it's lined up to where we had the other collision area more or less set up. Okay, so we'll move that kind of back just so it's kind of cresting the edge there. Now we're going to use the exterior of some of these places as kind of a guide so we can edit things in to where we need them. Okay, so we got that kind of lined up, and we're going to bring this guy all the way back here. Now the process that I'm going to do is I'm going to be extruding this edge all the way around the parameter. Now to do that in 3ds Max, what you do is you hold down the shift key and you just sort of pull outwards. Okay, so now I'm going to get that kind of started. I'm going to go to my top view so I can get a good view of where I am going with this. Let's take this out of realistic mode here too, and it'll just go to shaded. Now this outer edge has some kind of zigzag to it, so we can follow that zigzag line if we wish to kind of sort of walk this around the fence. Okay, it's kind of, my fence line is actually not the neatest at the moment, you know, but we're going to give it some sort of zigzaggy here. So just enough to keep the player inside the restraints. Now we don't have to be we don't have to be too refined with the collision. Now there's ways to keep the players out. Now this kind of area here, we got kind of a decision to make. You know, this is actually a very shallow corner. Now the problem with corners is players tend to get hang up on these edges, and they're not too happy about that idea. So it might be a worthwhile consideration just to kind of push that out a bit, so they're not running into that edge, so to speak. Sharp corners. They don't particularly too over thrilled about that idea. So that's another benefit of being able to use hand-built collision meshes. Is they're rather simplified in that you can have a lot more control in real time as an edit of kind of accommodating those types of needs as you go along, as opposed to giving everything a collision mesh and then dropping them in, and then you have these little corners that you snag up on, and they're really, I must admit, I find them annoying myself because well, I can't move worth a darn to begin with. But we have enough of a corner here that you can allow somebody to kind of hide into that corner, that bit of edging there. So we can bring this back. Okay, I'm going to sort of start speeding up things a bit here now that you kind of got an idea of where we're going with this. We don't want to spend too much time just repeating and rinsing and washing the dishes, so to speak. Okay, whoops, come on. You were supposed to go with me. Okay, there we go. And we got a bit of a zig and a bit of a zag here. So as you can see, we're starting to pick up a lot more speed down. And we can quickly, by pressing shift and dragging, we can place our corners, our corners where we want them to. I'm not going to be too tidy with this. Grab that edge. You can see that we got kind of a little bit ducked in there a bit, so we can grab that edge, just kind of pull it out a bit, and continue around. And I think we're more or less halfway done. But we'll just keep going. Complete it all. And we have our little cut back right here across the yard. Now this is going to be another fence in here, so we're going to more or less protect this area up in here from players running up into that area there. So we're going to drag that across, up. I don't even have to release the shift key. I don't know why I keep doing that. You know, you could just hold the shift key down. I wonder if we could do a shift lock. Nah, I'll give it a try, just as an experiment one day. But we're just going to keep moving forward. You can see now how quickly this is coming along. Some areas have a little bit more of a tuck in, so we want to you know, maybe add that in there to kind of keep the players, give them a little bit of a hiding area. Now you got some geometry back here that's inside the barrier object, you know, so we're in this part here where we've got kind of a building we need to walk into, but you can certainly edit the final collision mesh if you wish. And we're going to cut that back a bit, so we're kind of yeah, we want to be a little bit back further because you know, we have a building that sort of cuts into our shape here. So we'll push that a little bit back as to where we expect there will be there's a gate usually across this area here to prevent anybody from running into the fakey area back here. You can see it's just more or less a painted box. Now here's something that you could, I guess, back to that decision again about, you know, wedgie corners. That's a pretty tight corner, but I really don't see anybody snagging up on that area there. I mean, they're facing this way, so we're going to get this a little bit of a shank. Now, if we wanted somebody, for example, to have sort of a better sense of a cut back, but at the same time not let the player snag up on the corners, you can certainly wedge your corners, something like that type of idea, so where they slide off of it and around it as opposed of into it. That way you can still maintain some sense of depth as to an area that they're running into. Okay, so now we're cutting it back across here. We'll speed things up a bit. And there I go, hold, you know, clicking the hold shift key too much, which I don't have to. You can just hold it down and, whoops. I guess that's why I do it, so I don't accidentally start create unneeded edges. Okay, and there's actually a faster way of doing this, but you know, I'm not going to get into, you know, it's better to show you how to do it the hard way rather than showing you how to do it the shortcut way, because shortcut ways don't always work out as the way you would anticipate. Now, let's go back a little bit further. This is going to have, once again, another area with a fence. You know, these things open for yeah, just having a mountain wall back there. It'd be nice to put some fancy dancy stuff into the back there. Okay, I'm going to end it at this point here, but if we wish, we can just, since we're dubbing right into the inner part of it, we can just sort of carry on around on the outside of this building here, and then that would then finish up over here, which would totally tub in this environment as far as the walls are concerned and so forth. As you saw, though, we do have a building here with an entranceway. Now, usually without, you know, you want to cut before you start doing anything a little bit more with your collision here to actually create the collision mesh itself. You probably would want to go in and cut in your doors and so forth. You could do it later. Actually, I'm not going to bother. That's for another tutorial. You know, we'll show you how to do volume edits and so forth once we get to that part there. But let's just consider this as being our completed mesh. Now, to be able to use this as a collision mesh, it needs to be boxed. In other words, it needs a back, a side, a top, a bottom, etc. as a area of volume. Now, I'm kind of assuming that this allows Unreal 4 to know know the to be able to calculate the total volume of the space of what is supposed to be a collision area, as a block. So we can go ahead and create that easy enough by using a, uh, uh, a modifier here called shell. Now the shell will actually create this as a box volume for you. I think we want inner amount, not outer. Let's find out. So we want to kind of crank that up to as big, the ideal would be, maybe a half a player's length for clipping. And there you have it. You have a collision mesh on the outside of it. Now this needs to be completed. First of all, we'll convert this over to an inevitable poly. Now to complete this needs to have a name assignment, and it also needs an object to attach to it. So in this case, we're going to call this UCX underscore test is UCX, right? All these acronyms always kind of confuse me. I better double check that just to make sure. Let's unhide all. Yeah, UCX, that works. Okay, Control Z back out. That gives us the box. Now, to be able to use this in Unreal 4, we obviously need to assign it to a map-based type object. So, since we call this UCX, we need a object create box object, and we're going to call this test. So now with this selected and that selected, if we go to export selected, and we call this, I'm just going to blow this out, test, collision, we go OK. If we bring up UE4, actually, I'm going to have a problem finding that. Export selected. Okay, we want to go into our proxy box here, because this is where we put all our junk, more or less. That's test SION. Hit OK. We'll bring over our Unreal 4. Then we'll go to our content creation, and let's see. Actually, I think I already have a collision mesh set up here. Let's go to the games folder. Let's get rid of that. Okay, let's get rid of that. COL. Outside collision. Okay, let's get rid of that because I already built it. And we're going to bring in our browser here. We'll just sort of finish things off a bit. Now I need to find that. So I'm going to be doing this a little bit off the screen. Okay, let's see. Okay, Nevada FBX. Okay, just to give you a kind of a peek of the source control here. Here's all of this is Nevada, the map I'm working on, where everything is kind of broken down into separate elements and blocks and buildings and so forth. Each of these directories then will contain a subcomponent element of each of those different areas and volumes. So if I need a door, I make a door that fits a particular building, then I can resample that out to a different directory as to a prefab directory, and that sort of builds up my my prefab library at the same time. So anyways, here's test collision. We'll kind of drag that in. We'll check advanced. We don't need to import materials and so forth. So we'll go ahead and import that, and you can see there's where our test collision mesh is, and I kind of dragged that, and you can already start to see the wireframe, but our details as to our coordinates, as I said, are off, so we need to type that in. Now this is being brought in, of course, the collision mesh is being brought in, of course, based on that particular map object, and our XYZ is still off. Okay, location. No, that's right. That's right. That's correct. Okay, so let's kind of test that, see what happens. We'll just kind of jump into the game here, and we'll see if we actually have outside collision. And as you can see, we indeed have the collision that we created on the outside. I got big holes here. can't enter this building here. This is a good thing. This is the way we intended it to be, and we can sort of go back here to this little corner. We're not once you finish your mesh, you'll probably want to run the corners to kind of see if there's any place that you want to snag that you'll snag up on. But I wouldn't expect there to be any snagging because it is one continuous collision mesh around the exterior of the building. So the probability of you snagging up anywhere is probably slim. So for example, you can see how we can slide off of this corner here. We're not hitching up onto it. So anyways, hopefully that we found that useful. And I'll do another power tool usage down the line here. I'm thinking of maybe showing how to reference different objects within 3ds Max to either to help build individual components, but yet still maintain a continuity between the map that you're working on versus being able to dial in the detail work kind of idea.